Hello, this is Pastor Roland, checking in to see how you're doing. I've had some good programs where I've read from Mark chapter 11. And the last thing that I talked about yesterday, I want to talk about it again because it's that important. And that is, Jesus said, He said, if you go to the temple to pray, if you go to pray and then suddenly remember that you have something against your brother, then go and make it right with your brother. Forgive your brother. Because if you don't forgive others their trespasses, then your heavenly Father won't forgive your trespasses. Now, I don't know why that's not talked about more, because to me that is the most important, actually, two verses in the Bible. And he says it again he also says it in Matthew chapter 6, where he's providing the Lord's Prayer. It says the same thing. If you don't forgive others, your heavenly Father won't forgive you. So that's food for thought right there. So a lot of you need to take a good look at that, because you are not, for many people, I could almost say most people, maybe almost all people, with some exceptions, are not very forgiving. They harbor grudges, angers, resentments toward other people. They secretly judge others. Okay? They resent their mom, resent their dad, resent their brother, their sister, their co-worker, their neighbor. See? Resent a lot of people and judge them. Judge them. In other words, puff up and play God over another. Okay? Not good. And the worst thing you can do, the worst of all, is resenting your father. That's the absolute worst. Because it blocks you from finding the love of your heavenly Father. See, a lot of people feel empty. A lot of people feel empty. They feel unloved and empty. And the reason that they feel unloved and empty is because they resent other people, judge other people, especially their father, especially men. See, a lot of women feel unloved. They feel empty. They compensate with food. See, food loves them. But then the love of the world is not so good, right? So the love of food is not so good, because then if you eat too much food, it's not good for you. Besides, food can never provide the kind of love that we really want. So whether it's a man or a woman, if you resent your father, you have a grudge against your father. See, it may be buried. It may be buried under guilt and under lots of compensation. See, a lot of us, we feel emotions. Oh, I forgave my father, or I love. See, but it's on top of buried resentment, unfinished business, things that are sticking in your craw, maybe that you pushed under the carpet. You don't even want to look at them. But those block you from God. If you had God, see, you wouldn't feel empty. You wouldn't feel unloved. See, not at all. You wouldn't feel depressed. So if you don't have God, the first thing to look at is resentment. Okay? Toward anybody, toward anything, even toward yourself. See, a lot of people turn the resentment on themselves. They hated their dad because he failed them. He wasn't there for them. Or they hated mom because she was too much. She was bossy, or she was sick all the time, or she was cruel or mean, or yelled or slapped them around, etc., etc., etc. Okay? But anyway, so because of that, see, it's buried down there, and it blocks. Okay? It blocks a lot of things. It blocks spontaneity. It blocks joy. It blocks happiness. Okay? So that's the most important thing you can look at. And I'm pleased to say that Ann Landers agrees with me, or I agree with Ann Landers. Let's put it that way. I agree with Ann Landers. I said this on my previous program also. I'll say it again. After her long, wonderful, illustrious career of advising people in her newspaper column that was all over the United States, in probably hundreds of newspapers. After her long career, they asked her, they said, if you could give one piece of advice, if you could only give one piece of advice to people after all these years, what one piece of advice would you give? And you know what she said? She said, I would tell people to be more forgiving. To be more forgiving. Okay? Well, what that means is to let go of resentment and judgment. That's what it means. It doesn't mean to sweep everything under the carpet and then on the surface have all these emotional feelings and out of guilt. See, a lot of us love out of guilt. A lot of women serve out of guilt. She resents her husband because he doesn't have that special love that she needs. She didn't get it from her dad, now she's not getting it from her husband, so she resents him. But then since resentment is wrong, she feels guilty, so she serves out of guilt. See, to try to make up for the guilt. But people sense that, they may rebel against it. Okay? Or they take advantage. She's too nice, they take advantage. See, then she resents them for that. So look at this thing, resentment. See it for what it is. It's a very bad thing. See, humans are creatures of love. I was going to talk about that. And anything that counters love is not good for the human being, body, mind, or soul. Okay? And resentment is not love. You cannot love and resent at the same time. You cannot love and resent at the same time. And if you're impatient with your children, that's also resentment. See, when you feel inferior to someone, then you resent them. But when you're in the driver's seat, then what? Then you're impatient. And your impatience tempts them to resent you. See? I have a lot of books on the subject, articles, radio programs. You really ought to check them out. My name is Pastor Roland.